In part 1, we reviewed all of the boxes up until Fortress of Gears because that is all the boxes that are under the half gem cell, and this time we will finish the rest of them. So we will begin in Truth Universe. This box is actually quite good. It has DD support. You will need Dark Contract with the gate if you're playing DDDs. But again, it is reprinted in a structure deck. You might want a single copy of Swamp King. You have your Malefic support. You have your Paradox Gear in this box. And also a bunch of really good Crystal Beast support, which are really important if you want to play Crystal Beast. It's actually not that bad of a deck. It is a pretty good control deck, which you can use with this trap, and it makes it a pretty good control deck. And this box also has Miscellaneous Saurus, which is the best dinosaur card ever, which you will need if you want to play dinosaurs. Okay, Flames of the Heart. Flames of the Heart just got a lot better because we got new Goki support. You can get your Goki monsters from here, and then get the free to obtain Goki cards from the Gore's level up rewards and its drops, and then you can build a decent Goki deck. There are also Shinui support as well as Mayakashis. These two archetypes are still quite good, and considering that it's all from a mini box, it's quite easy to build, so this box is actually quite good. Next box, Witch's Sorcery. It has some great archetypes like our Predaplant. This fusion monster has a really decent effect. Witchcrafters are quite decent. Evil Eye is a really good anti-meta deck, even to this day. If a meta deck uses its graveyard, you can always banish their graveyard cards with the Evil Eye cards. We have Spellbook support and some really cheap Speedroid support. So if you want to play Synchros, this box might worth considering. I guess there's Altergeist. But I'm pretty sure if they're gonna release new Altergeist support, they might release them in a selection box or a structure deck. I'm pretty sure if they're reprinting Altergeist. So yeah, pretty good box. Has some really good archetypes worth considering. Next box, Chronicle of Glory. Well, a Megalith is okay, and the other cards are not very good. Some Mathmat cards are reprinted, and the only other good generic card in this box will be Coral Dragon if you want to play Synchros. But you might be better if you just use a Dream Ticket on this. So other than that, this box is not so much worth considering. Infinity Destruction has some very crucial Infinity supports like Archfiend and your Launcher. These are two very important cards if you want to play Infinities, which are still quite good to this day. And other than that, the other cards aren't really good. The Simorgh cards are not really good. The Weather Painter cards are only okay. And the Performapal cards are trash. They're not even pendulums. Okay, next box. Next box, Arena of Sanctuary. This box has some really great Valkyrie support. While they aren't really competitive, they are still a pretty good deck for new players. And you also get Triamid Sphinx, which is their boss monster. Very important for that deck. And of course, Karma Cut. Really good staple, and some Karakuri support as well. So this box is also really good for new players because of the Valkyrie support, and you can also start building Triamids if you want to invest in this box. And also you get Karma Cut. Okay, Shining Hope is actually a really good box. It has some good Onomat support. While they're no longer tier 1, they're still quite decent. Satel Knights are quite good, even though they're quite slow. They are still a pretty good pick for ranked. DD Crow is one of the best cards in the entire game. It is the best hand trap going first, and also Fiendish Chain is a really good staple, and Xyz Block is a good counter trap in Xyz decks. The Voltage of the Metal has, let's see. There are some good generic Xyz monsters in Voltage of the Metal. You might want to consider Levier if you're playing Phantom Knights, and Diamond Direwolf just as a generic card removal, but other than that, the other cards and archetypes aren't that significant. I mean, yeah, there is a Geargiant X for Gandora decks and Mechlords, and generic rank 3s like Zenmaines, but other than that, the other archetypes and cards in this box aren't that good. So even if you want to get the generic Xyz monsters, maybe just buy a single copy of this box will be fine. Shark Fang has a bunch of water support. And also Elemental Hero Stratos, so if you're playing a hero deck, this box is absolutely crucial. Or you can just use Dream Tickets again. Number 37 is quite good in water-based decks, but other than that, Evil Swarm are not good, the Gish key cards are only okay, and the other cards aren't that worth mentioning. Rage of Volcano has some great fire monsters. The box has some Hazy Flame support which you can use to climb rank, and Battling Boxer Veil as a really good hand trap to protect yourself from battle damage, and some good rank 5s like Volcasaurus and Fire King Avatar Arvata for Fire King decks and Hazy Flame decks for negates. And other than that, the Battling Boxer cards are quite bad, so don't bother. Infinite Ray is a really good box. It has a bunch of really good Xyz monsters and a bunch of really good archetypes. It has your Utopia Ray for OTK plays, some good Xyz monsters like M7, and your Hieratic rank 8. It has the stick chair combos. Even though it is limited to 2, it is still a quite decent engine to use for Xyz plays. It has a Levianeer for Chaos decks or Thunder Dragon decks, and Rescue Rabbit to make Xyz monsters, and there are also Noble Knight support, which is still quite decent in Duel Links. And for new players, you can play Digital Bugs. Even though links aren't affected by their effects, they are still a quite decent deck for new players. Photon of Galaxy is an essential box for Photon players because it has your Galaxy Eyes of Photon Dragon. You will need this card if you're playing a Photon decks. And even if you don't have the other rank 8 Photon cards, you can always play the regular version that people were playing before the rank 8 version, using Photon Vanisher and stuff like Photon Lizard to make your rank 4s and summon your Photon Dragons from your deck. That version is still quite decent. There are really good generic Xyz monsters like Abyss Dweller, Photon Strike Bouncer, Ghost Strike Alucard, Steel Swarm Roach, and of course number 7 Malevolent Sin. So this box is absolutely crucial if you are playing Xyz monsters. Antonymic Fury. This box most notably has MST, a really good card to use in basically any deck. It also has a TG support, and TGs are still quite good because of their skill. It lets them basically never brick. And for Water Xyz, there are stuff like Buzzsaw Shark that makes a rank 4 using itself, but the other stuff like Rikas are unfortunately not very good. But yeah, this box is still overall quite good because TGs are good and MST is good. Sign of Harpies is very good. It has very strong Harpy support cards, and they were tier 1 for a very long time, and some FA supports that were broken before the skill nerfs, but not anymore. There are generic card removal like Lightning Vortex and Wind Art for your wind decks. Eternal Stream has a couple of good cards like Tenki for your Beast Warrior decks. Trap Hole might be good if you don't have more expensive alternatives. The UA support are quite useful for the deck, and you will need your Neo Galaxy Eyes for at least 1 copy in your Photon deck if you're playing it. But other than that, the other cards are not very good. So this box is only okay. The King of Vermilion has some really good Resonator support like Crimson Resonator. Resonators are still a really good deck to this day. It is still very consistent even after the skill nerf, and it is overall quite cheap. There are also some Mechlord cards like Weissel, but you don't actually need Weissel in a Mechlord deck. And this box also has tuning for Synchron decks to make your deck a bit more consistent. Darkness Gimmick has supports for archetypes like Gimmick Puppets and Insectors and Vampires. Those aren't very good, but I guess they're okay. There is a very useful Photon card if you're playing the rank 4 version of Photons. You will want this card to search your other monsters. And Jelly Cannon might be good if you're low in rank or just playing against bots. Arts of Atlantis actually has some really good Chronomaly support. Even though Chronomalies aren't seeing a lot of play right now, they're still quite decent because their skill is absolutely busted. There is also a really good rank 3 for rock monsters, Gorgonic Guardian. This card is absolutely crazy in rock decks like Magnet Warriors. It is a negate that also changes your opponent's monster's attack to 0. Oh, we're finally on the Pendulum era. Pendulum Genesis has some really good Odd-Eye support if you're playing Pendulums like Sky Iris to search your Odd-Eyes cards, And of course, your Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon. It has a dust of gold for evil hero players, and your gadgets if you're playing Gandoras. But overall, the other cards in this box are only average. The pendulum cards aren't that good because it is the first pendulum box ever, so you will only want to get this box if you're playing Odd Eyes or Gandoras. The idea of Armageddon has really good DD support, most notably your DD7 Kepler and your Doom King Armageddon, absolutely crucial parts in a DD deck, and also some clock tower support like Dreadmaster. The skill is still not nerfed, so it is still fully functional. There is Performer Pal Second Donkey if you're playing Odd Eyes, and a few Crystal Beast support if you want to play Crystal Beast. So overall, not a bad box if you want to play DDDs. Chaotic Soldiers has one of the best cards in the entire game, Book of Moon. Even though it doesn't work against Link monsters, it is still really good to flip their materials face down. It has good generic pendulum supports like Rescue Hamster for your metal foes, good Necros support like Brionac. This box has quite a number of really cheap archetypes in it, for example your Chemicritters and also Prediction Princesses and your Ignites, because all of your Ignites are all N in rarity, so it is extremely easy to get a full Ignite deck just using this box alone. And even the Necros cards are reprinted in this box, so if you want to build a Necros deck, this box will have you covered. Force of Infinity has more Mechlord support, which are crucial for Mechlord decks, and also Abyss Actor support, which is still quite good to this day. There is a good generic synchro in Odd Eyes Meteor Burst to prevent your opponent from using hand traps during the battle phase, and really cheap Dynamist support for both old and new players. And Noble Dragon Magician is also good to have one single copy in a Odd Eyes deck. Fantastic Arc has a bunch of Burning Abyss support, and they are still quite good. Dante is crucial for the deck, and also in some versions of Phantom Knight decks. Arc Pendulum Dragon is a really strong card in Pendulums, and also your Destruction Sword Memories can be used in your Buster Blader deck. Compulsory Escape Device is a decent staple to use in some decks if you don't mind shuffling your own monsters to the deck. And Evil Swarm Nightmare is quite good for decks that can make it. Phantom of Rebellion has a really good Phantom Knight support. It has stuff like Break Sword and your Dark Rebellion that can be used in any deck that plays level 4 monsters. And the Galaxy Eye Cypher Dragon is a good card to use in Photons or in pure Cypher decks that you can also build within this box. All the other Cypher cards are really cheap, which means you can build a full Cypher deck only using this box alone. There are good Infinite Track support for Gandoras or Earth Machine decks. Maximum Gustav has some really good Metal Foes support. Metal Foes are still a really good deck that you can play right now. There are really good Necros support like Trishula, and good Red Eye support if you're playing Red Eyes. There are also Trains. While they're not really good right now, they might get more support in the future, and they might be a lot better. There are additional Burning Abyss support and Metaphy support. So this box does have quite a bit of strong cards inside, and if you're a new player looking to build a Pendulum deck, this box is probably the best for you to build a complete Metal Foes deck. Or alternatively, you can get Energy of Giga Rays, because this box also has another really cheap Pendulum archetype in Kleeports. You can build an entire Klee deck only using this mini box alone, so it is perhaps the cheapest Pendulum deck that you can build, and maybe also Abyss Actors. So aside from Abyss Actors, Klee is also a very cheap archetype that you can build only using one mini box, and it also has some Gandora support. While they are quite expensive, it is still a really good deck in this meta. Of course, we have our White Princess, which is a really good hand trap to prevent your opponent from dealing lethal damage, but unfortunately it doesn't work against Link monsters. Cross Dimension has some cards for Odd Eyes decks, like your rank 7 Darkest Dragon Doom Rider and your Odd Eyes Rebellion Dragon, and it has staples like Breakthrough Skill and most importantly Fluffle support. Fluffles are extremely good as a free-to-play deck. You can build a complete Fluffle deck only using Sora's rewards and also this box. And you also have Mario Senju support in Orochi Channeling, which helps boost the consistency of the deck by a ton. Heart of Exceeds has a bunch of Photon support, and Photons are perhaps the most played archetype in Ranked right now, aside from Salamangreats. We have a very oppressive rank 8 like Full Armor Photon Dragon, and your Cypher Blade Dragon that can rank on top of your full armor. You have your rank 11 Juggernaut Leve to rank on top of your rank 10 machine monsters, and Beatrice is absolutely strong in not only Burning Abyss decks, but any deck that can make rank 6 monsters. Big Eye is a good generic rank 7, and Call of the Hunter is just a generic revival trap that is good in some decks. Shining Sunrise has really good hero support, most notably Sunrise. This card makes heroes good again, as well as your Liquid Soldier that lets you draw 2 cards. And this box has tons of archetypes that you can build only using this box alone. Those include Fossils, Super Quans, War Rocks, and your Sacred Beasts. While these decks aren't necessarily competitive in the meta, they are still quite decent decks that you can build only using this singular main box. Okay, Stars of Synchro has really good Ice Barrier support. Their boss monster is really good, not only in Ice Barrier decks, but in other water decks like Crystons. Stardust Warrior is good in Synchron decks and TG decks to do as a turn 1 play. Dragon Ravine is good in Dragunity and also Dragon decks in general, and there are just some good synchros like Red Wyvern and your Ravenous Croco Dragon, and Infinity supports are actually also really good, like Infinity Sage. So this box is actually really good for new players because Ice Barriers are quite decent and you can build the entire deck only using this mini box. Finally, we have Link Revolution. Salamangreats are the best deck in the game right now, and it has support for that. It has generic Cyber support, which might be good in the future when more Cyber support come out. Thought of Duality is good for decks that don't special summon. Warning Point is a really good staple trap for any deck to use. World Chalice is a really cheap Link deck that can spam a lot of Link monsters, and there are good Dark Magician support like Eternal Soul, and also your Apprentice Illusion Magician. I guess that's it. Trickstars are coming, I don't care. I'm going to do this video anyway. So that's it. That concludes the box review for every single box in the game so far. I hope this video helped you at least a bit when you're thinking of boxes to invest on, and thanks for watching. Goodbye. Oh, finally I'm done with this. Next time I'll do the structure decks.